Hello, my name is Anna Casas, and I'm joined here by
Katerina Ivanovich.
And we're here to discuss extremophiles on other planets outside Earth, alongside the possibility of them evolving into intelligent life. So I think we should start off first by explaining what are extremophiles.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Annette. So, to dive in, the suffix philes means lover of, so extremophiles roughly translates to lover of the extreme. Whereas humans are so picky about the environments they inhabit, extremophiles thrive in conditions where physical properties are far unsuitable for any other creature. Also, I thought it was really cool, I was reading earlier, the third domain of life, the archaea, which we actually talked about in class, was discovered in part due to studies on extremophiles, which is pretty cool.
I would say they're pretty important in the science realm,
Definitely.
at least, I would think. Anyways, in order to explore the possibility of extremophiles on other planets, we must first turn our attention towards extremophiles on our own home that we call Earth. We'll explore some of the prokaryotic organisms right here on Earth in depth. Most notably, the thermophile is a heat-loving organism found right here on Earth in places like the hydrothermal vents in seas, the hot springs of Yellowstone, and other geothermally heated areas. They survive in temperatures of around 100 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, which, if you ask me, once it hits 90, I'm already complaining and whining about how
and you're from
hot
Texas.
it is. Yes,
which
I
is
am
crazy.
from Texas, which, it's desert area. So I'm already complaining about
you're practically an extremophile yourself.
I'm like, I could never even nonetheless 250 degrees.
Right.
Anyways, it is actually the thought that thermophilic eubacteria was one of the earliest forms of life, proving its resilience. Another extremophile that we're going to discuss is the psychrophile, who loves the cold. They live in conditions opposite of thermophiles, including temperatures reaching -4 degrees Fahrenheit. They were specific processes in their metabolic pathways to survive these extreme temps, which we will explore later.
Lovely. Next up, we have halophiles, a salt-loving creature. They require certain concentrations of salt to survive, so they reside in areas like the Great Salt Lake, Dead Sea, etc. Well, actually, the Great Salt Lake is a beautiful place to be, but I cannot imagine living there. How about you?
I have,
my skin gets all
salty.
wrinkly. Yeah.
It's too salty
It's
for me.
just
Though
too
sometimes
much.
it does do good for my hair.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to
I can't live there
permanently.
Well, to dive further into them, I was actually recently reading that the way they operate is by taking in potassium ions while exporting the sodium ions, and thus balancing the osmotic pressure of the cell, which I thought was cool, just a way of them adapting. Okay, well, do you think extremophiles could evolve into intelligent life?
I love talking about this concept.
Me
and
too,
everything.
me too.
So first of all, the concept of evolving takes a very long time, and usually I think it occurs because an organism has to adapt to its environment, or it has to evolve into better itself so that it could have a chance against its prey or whatever.
Kind of like humans did, as you could say.
I think that extremophiles would not be able to evolve into any form of intelligent life, at least in our in our lifespan or anywhere close. But I think mostly because of the conditions that they do live in is my reasoning.
Right.
I think it would be very interesting, and it'd be an interesting idea, and a concept of extremophiles having the capability to evolve into life with intelligence would be outstanding, because I think they could offer great opportunities with being able to live in such extreme conditions and having the form of thought, or having the ability of forming their own civilizations. Which I think if they were to form their own civilizations or form their own societies, how would that look like? Or would that pose a threat to us as humans, because they do live in such extreme conditions, or have that upper leg over us?
Yeah, the advantage. I don't what would it look like if they gained sentience? With them being most extremophiles, I feel are organisms that are super small, so I feel for them to gain any kind of intelligence would knock our society on our feet, to be honest.
Yeah, I also think because they're so small, would they increase in size?
Yeah, I feel you would have to, right?
Yeah, or how would they even the evolution look like.
Right.
Going from one or small organism into whatever that they would go into.
It's certainly fascinating. Well, I mean, personally, I feel like the core of Extremophiles lies in the fact that they're able to adapt so quickly. So maybe it's within a shorter a shorter lifespan that even humans have like existed in. So what are the limits of life and evolution? I'm not sure. So it's an interesting question for sure.
I think at this point, like, because they're able to live in such extreme, they're already proving that they're somewhat a little better than us.
The movies are right. Anyway, let's explore the possibilities of Extremophiles outside of Earth, which is very fascinating to me too. So all the Extremophiles provide a basis of comparison for what we might look for or even find on other planets in our solar system. Our very definition of life is challenged by Extremophiles, and they are the perfect analog for the start of search of life elsewhere. Starting with Mars, by the nature of the red planet, any organism found on it would be classified as an extremophile. For the most part, this would be true for any extraterrestrial life we might find in our solar system.
There are some extremophiles that are not only able to survive on Mars, but can survive in space in itself, which I think that's already impressive enough, considering that we can't even survive
in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, so that it means that they can withstand solar UV radiation, the extreme vacuum, and all the temperature fluctuation that goes on in space. Though we might consider some planets to be uninhabitable or have no habitable qualities for humans, at least.
Right.
They might just be the perfect conditions for an extremophile, which is purposely the reason why scientists are still looking for extremophiles on other planets such as Mars, as how we talked about earlier. Right. Because as I mentioned before, any organism that's automatically found on Mars, they would automatically be considered an extremophile.
Just by the nature, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Mars has the potential to host psychrophiles, which I did mention earlier, due to its extreme cold temperatures. The psychrophiles on Earth, however, can withstand -4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually a lot warmer than Mars. But the whole idea of extremophiles evolving is for them to adapt to more intense conditions, so I have no doubt there's potential for them there. And actually, part of my reading, they actually adjust their lipid ratios and concentration of salts and sugars in such a way to create an antifreeze effect in their bodies, which is insane.
I think that's a crazy concept.
Yeah, in their own bodies.
A little antifreeze. It's that's an important part of a car.
Yes.
You have to have antifreeze.
And it's a similar effect in their bodies that they are doing by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would love to know, when did you first hear about extremophiles?
I think what I first learned about them was in my biology class freshman year, and I was just very baffled, I guess I could say, about the extremophiles and how the extreme conditions that they could live in, and how we wouldn't be able to be closely to survive to those kinds of conditions.
Right.
So they've always been in the back of my head, and I always wanted to dig in deeper into the idea of the extremophiles, and so this class just gave me this project gave me an extra little opportunity to look further into them.
Well, I feel the same way, because my first time hearing about them was actually this class. I'd never even heard of them before, or at least I never recognized them as extremophiles. So I thought it was really fascinating the first time I ever learned about them, and I don't know.
It's a crazy concept, I think.
Yeah, I just think the limits of life is just always such a fun topic. So yeah, that's how we made it here to our project.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is pretty much all for today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.